to our next episode of the Hormone Café. Today, I want to talk about how to keep yourself healthy when you're traveling. Oftentimes, I hear people say, I was on the right track, and then I went to visit my in-laws, or I went on a work trip, and then it totally threw everything off. So I'm going to use an example of a conference that I went to see how we can use some of these everyday principles in order to keep ourselves healthy while we're traveling. Because the worst thing is that you either go on vacation or you go on a work trip, and then you feel like you need to spend the next 1 to 2 weeks getting yourself back. So we want to find ways where we can keep ourselves on track while we're traveling so we can stay healthy and not feel like we need a vacation from our vacation. So I went to a conference for work in Atlanta, and I want to walk through some of the things that I did right and some of the things that I did not so well in order to keep myself as healthy as possible on this conference. The conference started on a Saturday morning, and I needed to be there on Friday night. And it was in Atlanta, which is quite far away. It was a really long flight. So one thing that's essential is when you're planning ahead, it's really, really essential to prep. And knowing that it was going to be a really long flight, that morning I had prepped a lunch for myself. So I ate my normal breakfast, went to work, and then on the way to the airport, I ate my lunch. And then when I got to the airport, I had to wait a while, and then I ended up getting dinner. And when you're at an airport, it's really hard to eat healthy. It's impossible to find vegetables at the airport. So one thing that I usually do is I have my little go-to places, and I got a tuna sandwich. And when I get a sandwich somewhere else, I always try to take off the bun or the top bun or the top piece of bread just so that I still maintain my 1-to-1 carb to protein ratios. And the other thing is, if I can find it, I do try to eat a vegetable. And oftentimes, because sandwiches come with pickles, then at least I have something. It's also important to drink a lot of water when you're traveling, especially if you're flying, because it can be really dehydrating. So I bought dinner. I had a sandwich to have on the plane. I had a vegetable. Even though it was just a pickle, it's better than nothing. And then, of course, if you can find something fresh, like fresh fruit or bananas, apples, things like that, it's helpful as opposed to eating a lot of carbohydrates, cookies, chips, which we find at the airport. And again, it's not that we can't have treats. It's just that it's helpful to buffer those treats with something like a fruit or a vegetable or a protein. So I got on the plane, and of course, when you're on a plane, all they have to eat is pretzels and crackers. And so I had packed some snacks ahead of time. So I had a bunch of beef sticks and cheese sticks in my bag, because I know that that's my go-to protein, so I can eat a cheese stick and then I can have some pretzels, because I've done it in the past where I just eat pretzels or I just have a hot chocolate or something like that, and it really, really spikes my blood sugar and I feel horrible afterward. And the last thing that you want to do is spike your blood sugar and feel super grumpy and crash and feel hangry when you've just been on a 3.5-hour flight and now it's 10 o'clock at night. So I learned the hard way, and now I know that it's important to pack snacks. One thing that I usually do, the reason that I do cheese sticks and beef stick is that they're relatively pure. Sometimes I'll buy protein bars, but I just don't love how many carbohydrates are in protein bars. I like to be able to eat just pure protein sources like cheese and beef sticks so that it will enable me to eat other carbohydrates if I want to. So I bought some snacks, ate them on the plane, had this long flight, drank a lot of water, and then landed in Atlanta. And it was super late at night. It was like 10:30. And again, I was starving. And because I was going to a work conference, normally I would stay in the hotel of the conference, but I was staying with a friend because there was a friend that I wanted to visit in Atlanta. So staying with a friend has its pros and cons. Number one, you have access to a kitchen and a fridge, which can be really helpful. But for example, you might not have access to a gym, that kind of a thing. And sometimes there's things going on in their life that affects your schedule, whereas a hotel, sometimes you have a little bit more control over your own schedule. So it's just something that you want to plan for wherever it is that you're going to stay, that you can sleep well and eat well and ideally move your body. So my instinct was to go through a drive-through or a fast food place because it was super late. I hadn't eaten in hours since I had my little tuna sandwich and I was starving But what I did instead is I just asked my friend to heat up her leftovers. So when I got to her house, I was able to eat a really nice meal. So that's another helpful thing if you're staying with somebody else, to have access to a kitchen when you're starving. Sometimes the go-to is just to go through fast food. So I sleep at her house. I wake up really early, go to my conference. One thing that's super important to me is protein for breakfast. And I didn't know what the breakfast food was going to be like, because sometimes you go to a conference and all they have is pastries for breakfast. If I ate a pastry and then I had coffee for breakfast, I would feel horrible in an hour. And I looked up the hotel and I knew that they had a Starbucks there at the hotel. So my go-to is, if everything fails and there's no protein at all at the breakfast, then I know that I can get the sausage and egg sandwich at Starbucks and at least get some protein in. So it is really important when you're traveling to have backup options and know where your options are, because also the last thing you want to do when you're at a conference and you're sitting at a table for 10 hours straight listening to lectures and things like that is to have your blood sugar rise or fall, and then you just feel horrible, because it's already tiring to not be sleeping well, to just be sitting all day long, to not be moving your body. And so keeping your blood sugar stable is extremely important. Luckily, the hotel breakfast had protein, so I was able to eat my eggs, eat my sausage. I do try to get 20 grams of protein for breakfast, and I try to start my day with breakfast. So that's another thing that I think is helpful, is delay your coffee. My friend had made me coffee that morning, and I was super duper tempted to drink her coffee, because there it was right when I woke up. I was so happy about that. But if I was to drink coffee, it does make me feel really bad if I don't eat food first. So she poured me this beautiful cup of coffee. So I took it in a to-go mug and I ate breakfast, and then I drank coffee. And those are just the things that I know work for my body. And so it is important to know your body and know what's going to make you feel good, especially when you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of control over the other variables. And so you want to feel as good as possible. So I ate my breakfast, drank coffee after that. Usually I try to put heavy whipping cream in my coffee, but that is extremely hard to find when you're out and about. So usually I'll just do half and half or whole milk or something like that. Ideally, black coffee is the best. I just don't like the bitterness, particularly in coffee that's just black. So I tend to add a little bit of heavy whipping cream to it. But when I'm out and about, then I'll do half and half or whole milk. And then the bummer, of course, about sitting in a conference is that you're just sitting all day long and you're really not moving around a lot. But I also, of course, had packed some snacks. So if I felt hungry, then I could eat a beef stick or a cheese stick. Another thing that's important is I brought a water bottle, because I feel like it can be really difficult to remember to drink water. Even though you're just sitting there, it seems like it would be easy to drink water. At least for me, it's hard because I'm not in my normal rhythm. So every time there was a break, I would always get up, make sure I got a big glass of water and drink a lot of water. And then for lunch, they have lovely lunch at the conference, at the conference hotel. Again, I really try to always start my food by eating either protein or vegetables. So the first thing I want to put in my plate is vegetables and protein. So I try to eat my vegetables first, then my protein, then my carbohydrates at the end. Another thing that I find when I'm getting served food all day long, which is amazing, a lot of times they'll have dessert or treats for snacks, and they'll have a lot of carbohydrate snacks or have dessert. But when I'm in my normal routine, I usually don't eat dessert for lunch. So I didn't eat dessert for lunch because I was going to have a treat. I wanted to save it for dinner or for another special time in the conference. So if you're getting served some food, if it doesn't have vegetables, at least I would start eating protein first before you eat any carbohydrates or rolls or anything like that. That can be a helpful way to just keep your blood sugar stable while you're at a conference, especially because it's so easy at these conferences to get an afternoon crash. You're just sitting there all day long, and you're also not eating your own food, and you're just eating 3 meals a day of somebody else's cooked food. Sometimes that can make you feel a bit sluggish and tired, and also you're not moving your body, and you're sitting inside of a conference room. You're not getting a lot of sunlight. So it helps me to eat a lot of protein, eat a lot of vegetables, and then have a dinner roll or some kind of bread, or if I want to have a carbohydrate, just save that for the end of the meal. So then I'm sitting in this conference. Of course, I get this humongous afternoon slump, and I don't feel that great in the afternoon. And my go-tos when that happens to me are to eat a high protein snack and drink some decaf tea or electrolytes, and then also have a huge glass of water, because sometimes when we're feeling down and hangry, we do crave carbohydrates or treats, but that will just make you worse hangry in about an hour. So I had a huge glass of water. I wish that I had packed electrolytes. That would have been really smart to have my own electrolytes and I just throw into some water and drink it then, but I didn't have that. So I went to the little Starbucks at the hotel and got myself a decaf tea. And that was the perfect thing that I needed as a little pick-me-up in the afternoon. Then we had dinner at the conference. Again, I always try to have my vegetables first, then my protein. In a perfect world, we would be getting about 20 grams of protein for each meal. Of course, that's a little bit body dependent. Some of us need a little bit more, some of us need a little bit less. So just having a sense of what 20 grams of protein is, right? So they had fajitas. So if you have a certain amount of beef, the size of about the palm of your hand, that's about 20 grams right there, or the equivalent amount of chicken, that kind of a thing. And then, of course, I always drink a lot of water with meals, because that is just a great way to get your 60 to 80 ounces of water in a day. And then the conference went really light, so I basically ate dinner, talked a lot, went home, talked to my friend, went on a walk at night with her, and then went to bed. And then the next morning was similar. So wake up, go to the conference, eat their conference food, and then it was a pretty similar day, except that we got done a little bit earlier. And then I went back to my friend's house and she wanted to go out to eat. So also, I feel like when we travel a lot for work conferences, sometimes you might have to go out to eat with clients and things like that. Things that I just find helpful are, it really helps if you can start with a salad or some kind of vegetable. If you can help it, you don't want to start with the chips or the rolls at the table. And then it does, of course, help to order some kind of protein, fish, chicken, steak, something like that. And then if you want to have a carb, try to have it at the end. So for example, if I'm going out to a Mexican restaurant, usually they don't tend to have a lot of salad at Mexican restaurants, but I'll have something like guacamole, or just skip appetizers in general and go right to having fajitas for dinner. And then I'll let myself eat the chips at the end, because it doesn't spike my blood sugar so much. Same thing if I go out to Italian restaurants, I'll often try to get a salad and then some vegetables and some meat, and then I'll leave the carbohydrate or the dinner rolls as a little treat for myself at the end. Not that we can't have them, but I feel so much better if I start with my veggies and my protein and eat my rolls at the end than if I fill myself up on rolls or chips at the beginning. Anyway, my friend wanted to go out to this chicken place, and they're known for having amazing chicken in Atlanta, and things that I just find helpful when I'm ordering food in from a restaurant, things like that. It always helps to get things grilled instead of breaded. So I like to get grilled chicken instead of breaded chicken. And they have these chicken bowls. Personally, I know that tortillas really, really spikes my blood sugar, whereas things like rice, especially if it's brown rice or quinoa, they don't spike my blood sugar as much. So I try to tend to get things like rice bowls instead of wraps. That's an important thing to know if you're going to have a carbohydrate, which is one that is better for your body, because not only is it better for your body, but it just makes you feel a lot better. If you eat a lot of carbohydrates, especially right before you go to bed, it can keep your blood sugar high all night long, and that can really affect your sleep. And again, it's not that you can never have carbs, so you just want to make sure you watch your 1-to-1 carbohydrate to protein ratio. For example, I got this rice bowl, and I just had them add half rice, and then of course I had a bunch of vegetables and chicken and things like that. So that was our dinner. And in an ideal world, we would eat dinner about 2 hours before we go to bed. But of course, when you're out and about, there's a lot of ideal rules that you're going to have to break, because it's impractical. I think my friend and I didn't end up eating until about 9 o'clock at night by the time we had got this food and all of that. However, I knew I was going to get on an airplane really, really early the next morning. So one thing I did is, while we were waiting for our food, I went to Trader Joe's and I got a couple of yogurts and some more snacks, some beef sticks to have for breakfast the next morning. Because if you're going to go to an airport and your flight's at 6 o'clock in the morning, I guarantee there's not going to be healthy options available for you that early in the morning. So that really helped me. When I woke up in the morning, I mean, you have to wake up 3-4 o'clock in the morning to get to a 6 a.m. flight. But I was able to have a relatively healthy breakfast because I had all these yogurts that I had bought at Trader Joe's and then some beef sticks. So I still got my protein in the morning, got on my flight, and then went back to Denver where I live. So some of the things that I think were great is that I really packed snacks. I thought ahead, looked up restaurants, knew what makes me feel bad and avoid that, even if it's tempting. Some of the things that I did not do well at all was move my body. In a perfect world, I would have gone on more walks or at least done 10 minutes of yoga, a little bit of strength training. So when you're in a hotel, it can be really nice just to go down to the hotel gym, even for 10, 15 minutes during lunch, when you're on a break, just to literally move your body. It does not have to be for a really long time. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on yourself, or even just going on a walk after dinner would have been really helpful. I think that in my socialization, when I'm talking to people during these conferences, I wish that I maybe would have said something like, oh, let's talk while we're walking, or let's go on a walk around the hotel, or, oh, it's so nice outside, let's go walk around outside. So moving my body is something that I didn't do well. And the other thing that I didn't do well was sleeping. Of course, sometimes your flights are when they are, but I think that I would have planned to sleep a lot more because, of course, when you have long flights and you spend literally half of a day traveling and you have time changes, it can really throw off your sleep. And why the heck did I have a 6 o'clock flight in the morning? That was totally unnecessary. I should have put my flight for later so that I could get enough sleep. Because when you're just sitting all day long, you're not moving your body and you're not sleeping well, you do come back from a conference feeling totally exhausted. So those are some things that I did well, that I didn't do well. In general, there's 5 principles that you want to think about when you're traveling and how to keep yourself healthiest, or 5 little tips. Number 1 is, if you can, I would really try to prep. So that means packing lunch if you need to pack lunch, packing snacks, just having go-tos. So one thing that I wish I would have packed is electrolytes, for example, so I could have thrown that in my water. Another thing that's really helpful to pack is decaf tea or even caffeinated tea. I really like green tea because it has so many antioxidants. And then my go-to snacks tend to be cheese and meat sticks. And sometimes I'll have protein bars. I'm just a little wary of protein bars because I always like to make sure that they have a 1-to-1 ratio of protein to carbohydrates. Number 2 is grocery store is healthier than fast food or restaurants. Sometimes when I'm traveling, I'll actually order groceries to the hotel or to the Airbnb where I'm staying. And it's an amazing, amazing way to get fresh food or snacks. For example, I went to visit my in-laws in Orlando, and I just like to be able to eat what I like and have lots of vegetables and things like that. So I told them, you know what? You don't need to order a bunch of groceries for all of us. We're just going to order our own groceries. So we literally just had Costco deliver us a bunch of fresh produce and steak and salad and chicken right to the house. And I'll often do that to hotels. You can do Amazon Fresh, you can do Costco, you can do Sam's Club, you can do the local grocery store. Getting fresh groceries delivered to your hotel is a fantastic way to get fresh produce, especially if you're not exactly sure what they're going to serve. Sometimes it's nice to have a little mini pre-breakfast at your hotel or at your Airbnb before you go to breakfast, just in case they don't have anything protein and they just have pastries or donuts or carbohydrates or something like that. And or if you're just out and about and you go to the grocery store, it can be helpful to have your little go-to side snacks. And then, so if in general, if you can order your groceries, get them delivered, a grocery store is going to be healthier than fast food or restaurants or eating out. Number 3 is make substitutions when eating out and just keep those same principles. For example, you want to do grilled chicken instead of breaded chicken or chicken tenders. You might want to do brown rice instead of white rice. You might want to have a salad for an appetizer instead of chips or carbs. It's not that you can't eat out. And of course, sometimes we're at a restaurant and there's just not a ton of healthy choices, and that's the restaurant that everyone's going to, so we can't pick. But even the littlest tiny substitutions can prevent our blood sugar from spiking and make us feel great instead of feeling horrible at the end of a trip. For example, if I'm going to have a drink, I usually try to have it with dinner right after instead of having a late night glass of wine totally by itself right before I'm about to go to bed and that kind of a thing. And then, of course, I try to drink a lot of water even when they're eating out. Number 4 is plan ahead and have backups. For example, if you can look up the restaurants, look up the menu, or know what the food is going to be like so that you can know, okay, do I need to get groceries delivered? Do I need to have a backup plan? Where's my protein going to be? How am I going to get water? Where am I going to exercise? How am I going to move my body? How am I going to work out? Planning ahead is so, so helpful for those of us who are planners. That can be really part of our routine when we're planning for trips. For those of us who aren't planners, even just looking things up really quickly, either the day before or while you're on the plane or while you're in the car, can really help be a game changer for being able to sleep enough and move your body and get enough protein and vegetables when we're out and about. So planning ahead is essential. And then number 5 is move your body if possible. Of course, it's not always possible. Sometimes you are just stuck in a conference room and you have 12 hours of meetings and things like that, and it's not possible, in which case it is helpful to work out a little more or move your body a little bit leading up to that conference so that you don't feel like you just haven't worked out or moved your body in a week, because sometimes it's just not possible. But even in breaks, or if we can kind of think ahead to be able to go down to the hotel, workout gym, or go on a tiny mini run, or even a long run if you have time in the morning, or lift weights for a little bit, or just download an app and do 10-15 minutes of yoga or Pilates in your room. That can be really helpful. I think it's very helpful every time I go on a trip to pack workout clothes, because that can be a huge limiting factor. You get there, all you have is your fancy, nice clothes that you're going to wear to your conference, and you have nothing to work out in. It's really hard to work out if you don't have workout clothes. So it's always helpful to make sure every time you go on a trip, pack your workout clothes. So those are the 5 principles that help if you're traveling to keep yourself healthy. 1, make sure you prep. Having lots of healthy snacks is essential. 2, if you can go to the grocery store, it's much healthier, of course, than doing fast food or restaurants. 3, make substitutions when eating out to keep yourself as healthy as possible. 4, plan ahead and have backups. And then 5, move your body if possible. So next time you go on a trip, I hope that you can use some of these principles, because I really, really want you to feel amazing every single day and not feel like you just threw everything off and you're coming back from a trip and now you have to backpedal and make sure you get enough sleep and get enough protein and move your body so that you're feeling well again. If you have any questions, you want us to personalize this plan to you, we do a lot of nutrition work here at Vera Health and Fertility. We also have a dietitian. Sometimes it's helpful to meet with her if you're about to go on a trip, because she can help really outline and plan for you. I wish you the best on your next trip. Please stay healthy so you can come back feeling amazing and refreshed. Thanks again for listening to this episode of Hormone Café, and stay tuned for our next episode.